Many directors think of themselves as storytellers, but in David Lynch's films, from Eraserhead to Inland Empire, he dispenses with the usual rules of narrative to explore something much deeper, something much darker, something I can only describe as a big mood. Lynch's particular brand of surrealism has made him a darling of art house audiences, but on occasion he's worked profitably in the mainstream. He made two of his most successful films, The Elephant Man and The Straight Story, as a director for hire, and his TV series Twin Peaks was a genuine pop culture phenomenon in the early 90s. But having said that, it is still a bit weird that he directed an advert for the PlayStation 2. This is the press conference in March 1999, at which Ken Kutaragi, president of Sony Computer Entertainment, officially announced the company's new gaming console, the PS2. Alongside a new controller and memory card, there were some more exciting developments. A built-in DVD player would allow users to watch films through the machine. But perhaps the most eye-catching revelation was this, right here. The Emotion Engine. This was the name Kutaragi gave the machine's CPU, the piece of kit that the piece of kit that controls the piece of kit that does the thing with the piece of kit that runs the machine. For lay people like me and complete idiots like these journalists, what was more important than the Emotion Engine's specs was the promise of that name. The advent of Resident Evil and Metal Gear Solid had brought video games closer to cinema, introducing a new level of narrative sophistication to the medium. The Emotion Engine would take that even further, executing complex calculations at lightning speed to create the appearance of real human behaviour in the player's on-screen avatar. Or at least, that's what Sony were promising. Everyone else would have to wait till 2000 to see if they were bullshitting. But there was no denying that Kutaragi had generated a real buzz around the PlayStation 2, and the success of this was demonstrated in advanced sales figures. The UK's entire stock allocation was sold out well before its November release date.
PlayStation 2 went on sale at midnight, but only 165,000 had been shipped over, and they were all pre-booked.
But sales weren't enough. Sony wanted to stand apart from their competitors, Sega, Nintendo and Microsoft. Creating a mystique around the machine was just as important as selling units, and if you wanted mystique, there was really only one man for the job. After an exhaustive 18 months of focus testing, Sony decided that the advertising campaign for the PlayStation 2 would emphasise the overall experience that the console could offer gamers, rather than a more conventional rundown of its technical innovations. The campaign would depict the machine as an emotion engine in a figurative sense, as a mental space that allows for a more powerful experience. On that basis, David Lynch was Sony's only choice to direct the first television commercial in the campaign. His 1986 film Blue Velvet and the TV series he had co-created, Twin Peaks,
There was a fish in the percolator,
had established him as a unique voice in popular culture. And, as a very public practitioner of transcendental meditation, he was deeply interested in mental spaces and powerful experiences.
It's a simple, easy, effortless technique, yet supremely profound, that allows any human being to dive within.
This is apparent in the two productions he was working on prior to the Sony gig. In 1999, Lynch directed The Straight Story, a family-friendly road movie distributed by the Buena Vista arm of the Disney Corporation. That film was interpreted by critics as a new direction for Lynch, away from the violence and esoterica of his early work. But given that most film critics are rubes with zero curiosity and the attention span of a Biden,
Come on, man.
they were unaware that Lynch was simultaneously putting the finishing touches to his most out-there production yet, a TV pilot turned film called Mulholland Drive.
It's all about round-the-clock sex.
Although these films were very different, they demonstrated Lynch's gift for mood. They too are emotion engines. The deliberate slowness of the straight story gave the audience time to ponder on the beauty and sadness of the world its characters inhabited, while Mulholland Drive drew viewers in with a tangled web of unsolved or unsolvable mysteries. Whatever he was working on, Lynch's films were immersive, and this convinced Sony that he was a good fit for their product. For his part, Lynch has always been pretty chill about directing adverts.
I do sometimes commercials to make money.
Eu faço esses comerciais de vez em quando para ganhar dinheiro.
But I always say, every time I learn something.
Mas eu sempre digo, toda vez eu aprendo alguma coisa.
Efficiency of saying something.
A eficiência de se dizer algo.
And new technologies.
E novas tecnologias.
Lynch would find all of these things when he entered the third place. Filming occurred in October 2000. Although Lynch was working to a brief, it had been tailored to his unique style. Sony's ad man, Trevor Beatty, had come up with the idea of the third place as a metaphor for the console's immersive capabilities.
The third place is not up, not down, not waking, not sleeping, not the past, not the present. It's a third thing.
Lynch responded to it enthusiastically. He also extracted a couple of concessions from Sony. One, the shoot would take place in his hometown of Los Angeles. Two, he ditched the brand colours, black and electric blue, for black and white, which he'd used to great effect in Eraserhead and The Elephant Man. Lynch further stamped his identity on the project by calling up several of his key collaborators, including longtime production designer Jack Fisk, to realise this strange nether realm. The advert had visual continuity with his other projects, but it also gave him the chance to explore new technologies, such as digital video and CGI. He pushed those tools to their absolute limits, transforming himself into a talking duck.
Welcome to the third place.
Even though this was a paycheck for Lynch, he treated the production with his usual boyish excitement.
This is so fucking beautiful.
And shooting wrapped after only 2 days. The finished advert, running a minute long, follows a man in a suit, a classic Lynch archetype, as he traverses a narrow corridor, before meeting up with his boys in the third place. Sony executives were convinced that it was right for the campaign, and in November 2000 it premiered on UK television, 3 days before the console's launch. Since Sony had already smashed their sales targets, the advert's success was measured in column inches. In 2000, gaming wasn't yet the province of serious think pieces, so this write-up in The Guardian focused on Lynch's involvement more than anything else. Sony had therefore achieved their goal of generating a mystique around the console. It was being talked of in legitimate, well, semi-legitimate
It smells really weird.
publications that regular, well, semi-regular people read, not just gamers. The console had entered the public consciousness in a way that neither Sega's Dreamcast nor Microsoft's soon-to-be-released Xbox managed.
Now this is what all the fuss is about, the PlayStation 2 console.
And for this, Lynch deserved a certain amount of credit. But if we're talking about credit, it's worth pointing out here that the subsequent adverts in the third place campaign were not directed by Lynch. They all have a gently surreal tone, which is clearly influenced by his style, but his distinctive visual motifs are missing from them. Lynch doesn't seem to have been bothered by this himself. After Welcome to the Third Place, it was straight back to work on Mulholland Drive. But as it turned out, he didn't quite leave the third place that easily. For many film fans growing up in the early noughties, Welcome to the Third Place was their unwitting introduction to Lynch. In retrospect, it was one of the last moments when his work crossed into the mainstream. Mulholland Drive, finally released in 2001, was Oscar nominated, but the subsequent Inland Empire is perhaps his most difficult film. He ended the noughties unable to secure financial backing in a Hollywood that was increasingly focused on mega-budget productions. Retirement seemed to have been foisted upon him. And then, in 2017, he surprised everyone with his biggest project yet, a third season of Twin Peaks. Rather than a straight follow-up to the climax of Season 2, it built upon the experiments of the films he'd made in the interim. Characters are doubled up, just like they are in Mulholland Drive. There are long stretches where absolutely nothing happens, just like in Inland Empire. And an early episode takes place in a strange void apparently beyond time and space, which is echoes of the Third Place. Given a surprising degree of creative freedom by Sony, Lynch crafted something that was recognisably his own, while also taking the opportunity to refine his filmmaking practice. The new technologies he utilised allowed him to bring to life some of his more outlandish ideas that he would pursue in subsequent works. For those reasons, Welcome to the Third Place and other adverts Lynch directed should be considered an important part of his artistic development, rather than just some weird deviation from art house respectability. And yeah, it's a big mood as well.